I walk into the plant, I sit down at the conference room, and within 5 minutes after meeting with the leadership team, I'm confronted with a question that tells me more about the company than anything else. The question is this: David, just tell us, what do we have to do to be OSHA compliant? Whew. That is the wrong question to ask. You see, when I hear that question, I know what kind of company I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a company that's compliance minded. And I hate companies that are compliance minded. I want to explain two different types of companies. In this episode, I'm going to tell you why I don't work with compliance-minded companies and why I love working with other companies. We're going to talk about the questions that you need to be asking to make sure your company's on the right path to actually prevent injuries and avoid an unexpected OSHA audit. Let's jump in. Well, hey, friend, my name is David Sawyer. I'm a safety coach. I work with busy managers, oftentimes managers that feel like they're overwhelmed, they're overworked, and they're underwater when it comes to OSHA compliance. In this episode, I'm going to talk about two different types of companies. I'm going to talk about companies that are focused on compliance, and then I'm going to talk about the opposite, companies that are actually focused on safety. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll get a lot of helpful information so you can decide what path your company needs to go down. But before I jump into the video, I want to invite you, go to my website, helpwithosha.com. There is a free OSHA audit checklist. Trust me, when I was a safety manager, when I first cut my teeth in safety, I would have killed for this kind of resource. This resource will help you understand what your company needs to be ready for an unexpected OSHA audit. It's not just a PDF, it's actually a video where I explain what you need to do to make sure your company is prepared for OSHA. It's a great starting place. It doesn't tell you everything you need to know as a safety manager, but it will give you peace of mind when it comes to OSHA. It'll help you understand what you need to do, what homework you can do to better prepare in case OSHA comes knocking. So check out the checklist. Go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and you can access the checklist right now. Today, in this episode, I want to talk about two kinds of companies. You see, there's two kinds of companies, and I've discovered this the easy way, and I've discovered this the hard way. There's some companies I can't stand working with. Can't stand them. And the reason I can't stand them is because they're focused on the wrong thing. You see, when a company is only focused on compliance, they ask stupid questions like, what do we have to do? Just what do we have to do to be OSHA compliant? And I hate it. Because it's not the question, it's what's behind the question. What's behind the question is, I want to do the bare minimum. I see safety as something that's a cost, it's expensive, it's a waste of time, it's common sense. And when I know that that's where the company is coming from, they don't get it. They don't get it. And it's like I'm swimming against stream. I'm swimming against the current if I'm trying to explain to them why they actually should invest in a good safety program. The other side of companies, the other type of companies, I should say, are safety-minded companies. They're focused on what can actually prevent accidents at their company. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. You see, companies that are focused on only compliance, they're just trying to get away with something. They're trying to spend less money. They're trying to cut corners. They're trying to just get by. I don't want to just get by. I believe your company and your employees deserve to go home exactly the way they came in. I believe they deserve a workplace that's free of hazards And that's a better question to ask. So let me explain for a minute. There's, again, two kinds of companies, compliance-minded and safety-minded. Those are not the same thing. They're different. A compliance-minded company asks questions like this. They ask, what's the minimum that we have to do here? Like, what can we get away with? They ask questions like, do we really have to train everyone? They ask questions like, what paperwork is required? What documents do I have to have? Again, have to have, required, minimum. They're looking for rules so they can just do the bare minimum. And they might not say this out loud, but they're looking for the cheapest solution. And trust me, if you're looking for the cheapest solution, you're going to end up paying through the nose, because safety is expensive. If you don't have it, it is incredibly expensive. You see, when I talk with a manager and they're like, oh, we don't have a lockout tagout program. You know how expensive locks and tags are? Do you know how expensive an amputation is? The cost of an injury, the cost of an average back injury is over $40,000. And then you have somebody that complains because you're trying to make the workplace more ergonomically friendly so that people aren't bending over and picking up boxes all day long and hurting their back. If you don't have a good safety program, it is incredibly expensive. Incredibly expensive. So don't ask, what's the cheapest thing we can do? What's the bare minimum we can do? What can we get away with? Those are the wrong questions to ask. Here's what a safety-minded company will ask. They'll ask questions like, hey, where are the biggest hazards in our operation? So instead of asking, what can we get away with? They're asking, where could somebody possibly get hurt? They're thinking about being proactive. They're thinking about preventing. Compliance-minded companies are always reacting. They're just reacting to stuff. Safety-minded companies are proactive. They're getting ahead of the game. The other thing is, a safety-minded company will ask a question like, how do we make sure employees truly understand the hazards? They're not just using an LMS system to make sure everybody went through the training. I don't care if everyone goes through the training. I care about what people actually retain. What do they actually understand? I was at a company about 6 months ago. I got called in to do training because they had an LMS system and they had an accident. And when they did the investigation, they talked to the employee, and the employee had no idea what they had learned in the LMS system. All they knew was that they clicked the boxes they were supposed to click. They didn't actually retain it. So a good question to ask is, how do we make sure our employees truly understand? How do we make sure that they're actually getting what we're training them on? Another question they ask is, instead of asking what paperwork is required, a safety-minded company asks, what kind of system can we put in place? Because they understand employees change, managers change, crew members change, leadership changes. You have to have a system and a systematic approach to be a great company when it comes to safety. And then the other thing is, instead of asking that question of, hey, what's the cheapest solution? The question is, what's the most effective solution? Now, I'm not saying you got to go buy the most expensive solution. In fact, if you've been in any of my trainings, if I've worked with you as a coach, I will tell you there are a lot of ways to solve a problem. Oftentimes, companies think the most expensive solution is actually the best solution, and it might not be. It's all about what fits your organization. We need OSHA compliance is the bottom rung, man. This is what we should just be doing automatically. We shouldn't be working toward compliance. We should automatically be compliant. We should be working toward a safer workplace for everybody, going above and beyond. There's a reason there's OSHA standards and there's ANSI standards. We want to be moving beyond just the requirements. We want to be doing something better than that. So a few years ago, I would work with just about anybody. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just I was a consultant. I was working with companies. I'd get contacted by a company. I'd go in, I'd meet with them. They'd say, "Hey David, we have this issue. We need help with this problem." And that's when I started realizing there was two different types of companies. I had some companies that just wanted me to get them into compliance. They didn't want me to do what they actually needed. They just wanted me to get them into compliance. And I realized I hate working with those companies. So I don't do it anymore. I have companies that I don't work with. I have companies that reach out to me, and after they talk to me and I talk to them and I find out this is not a good fit. And so I don't work with them. The reason I have an application to work with me is because I want to work with companies that actually want to make safety part of their culture. And it's painful to me. It was a hard learning process for me because I want to help everybody. I go into companies where they have the compliance mindset, and they might have 200 employees. And I want to protect the employees. I want to help the employees. I want to make it a safe work environment. But I realize that management, they don't care about the employees. They care about the compliance. They care about the costs. They care about, the way they've been doing it, and they don't see that the way they've been doing it is a problem. If the company doesn't care about safety, I don't want to work with you. And that's been a tough transition for me because, like I said, I want to help the employees. It's not the employees' fault that the management stinks. It's not their fault. I want to help them. But I just realized I can't help them because the management doesn't care. You see, I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it over and over and over again. I will beat this drum. Good safety managers don't fail because they don't care. They fail because they don't have a system. And if you're working at a company where they only care about compliance, you're never going to have a great safety program. You can be in compliant, but you're never going to keep people safe. But if you have a company that's safety minded, they'll be OSHA compliant and they'll prevent injuries and prevent accidents. Let me wrap up by telling you a story. I worked with an organization for a number of years, and I was a consultant for them. I worked with them, and through the years, there was a number of management changes. And there reached a point where my contact person that I was working with as a safety consultant, they didn't care about safety. They just saw it as something in the way. And so we had established a safety program. We'd established a system that was working. And when this new person, was actually an HR manager, moved in, she called me into the office and we talked, and I was explaining, this is what we've done. This is how I was in full teacher mode, not in an arrogant way, just as, hey, let me tell you where we've been and where we are now and where we're going. Right? I was trying to paint the picture. This is where we were. These were the accidents. These were the recordables. This is the problems we had. This is where we are now. We're in a much better place. Things are moving in the right direction. And here's the goal over the next 6 months and a year. I kind of painted that path. And the manager was really in a hurry to get me out of her office. And I wasn't even taking that long. Like, it was one of those situations like, didn't we have a meeting scheduled for 11? Like, I'm not just barging in here. I thought this was scheduled at 11. And then I found out, like, yeah, it was scheduled at 11, but she just didn't care. She didn't care about safety. It was just one of those things that was on her agenda, but she didn't care about it. And about a month later, I reached out about some safety stuff, and it was like, I just got an email. Your services are no longer needed. And I was like, wow, I've been working with them for a few years, and that just kind of, that was a punch in the gut. Not even a conversation. Like, we had a system. We had something going here. And that's when I realized, it was a smack in the face. Like, it doesn't matter how good your system is. Doesn't matter how much you care. Doesn't matter about how many employees there are. If you have a company that's compliance minded, they're not thinking about safety in terms of being proactive. They're just looking at what's the bare minimum. And when she saw me as a safety consultant, she was like, that's excess. We don't need that. And she got rid of it. And that's why I realized, you know what? I don't need to be a consultant anymore. I don't want to teach people how to be compliant. I want to teach people how to be safety minded. Because like I said, if you have a good quality safety program, you'll be in compliance. That'll be the low bar. I want to help managers that step in that position so they understand what they need to do to go from feeling overwhelmed with all the pressure on their shoulders to going, I get it. Now I know what I need to do, right? If you haven't already, check out my stress-free safety workshop. This is a great place where I explain how I work with companies. Because what I do, I don't come in as a consultant. I don't come in focused on compliance. I come in and I say, hey, where are you right now? Let's do an assessment of where you are right now. Then we're going to set clear expectations for where we're going. This is what safety needs to look like going forward. This is what matters. And then we build in buy-in. So we don't have the same problem I had with that HR manager. You get buy-in from upper management, from crew leaders, from people at every level of the organization. So they know safety is something that we all work on together. It's not just on the safety manager's shoulders. And so when you do an assessment, when you set clear expectations and you provide training and programs, and then you build in buy-in so you have a culture that's actually founded with a base of safety, then you know you're in good shape. But things are still going to pop up. And that's why part of the stress-free safety program is having an expert in your corner, somebody that you can reach out to when you have questions, when you have concerns, when you have an OSHA visit, when you have an accident. You go, hey, I need guidance. And I help safety managers have that clarity of this is what I need to be working on. There's a million different things out there, but this is what I'm working on today. Clarity, the confidence to know that you got this. You're not missing anything. You got a plan. You got a roadmap. And then the last thing is you have peace of mind. You have peace of mind so you can go to sleep. You can go home at the end of the day and you can go, you know what? I got this. I understand what I need to work on. I got a system. I got a plan. And I know how to do this. And I can win. I can do this. I've been where you are. And I can help you get to where you're more than compliant. If you're an accidental safety manager that just got thrust into this, again, check out Stress-Free Safety. It is a program that will help you go from overwhelmed to OSHA compliant. And more importantly, you'll build a culture that actually matters because the mindset will line up with having a culture that values safety. So until we talk again, do everything you can to keep the people you work with safe because no one should get hurt at work.